for about four and a half days now. So we've come a long way, even though we've got a long ways to go. And this intellectual property, we had a very extensive conversation yesterday. I need to wrap up that conversation a little bit today by touching on a few things that we have to get some understanding of intellectual property. First, give you guys a little bit of time to think about your own, your own ideas, gather your own ideas, see if you have any clarifications, and then we have today. We are here right now. So others, questions, comments. Folks, you can never get to own a scientific phenomenon. So you can technically argue that Newton discovered gravity. I don't know. People before then also had discovered. But then Newton did not own gravity. But if you were to use gravity, all the scientific things associated with gravity, to come up with a solution, the problem of a phone falling on the ground, then that is something you can seek intellectual property protection for. You have a question, sir? Okay. Yeah, we're gonna take this. We can take those suggestions a little here. Absolutely, point well taken. We'll talk about this. All right. Now, I'll give you another example. Have you heard of? I don't know. You probably have, right? Car accidents. Those are not very common, but those are also not very uncommon. So, car accidents. What's the most difficult thing if an accident takes place? How do people get injured? People get injured by their own automobile, actually. It's not the other person hitting you. It's you hitting the steering wheel. Okay? So you somehow, what happens? Right? It's Newton's first law. The car very abruptly comes to a standstill, your body continues to move, and therefore you go to strike the steering wheel with a speed of about 50 miles an hour. And that's enough to break all the chest bones, everything, within a fraction of a second. And that's how people somehow, if there are fatal injuries, that's how you have those injuries. Okay? So are there solutions to avoiding that kind of impact with the steering wheel?
Airbags.
Very good. Airbags. Right? Airbags. Are there other solutions besides airbags? Well, seat belts, man. Airbags is two. There could be others. But the problem as time goes on, don't think that we have identified all the different solutions. Right? A lot of other ways. At one time, the airbag was only for the driver. Then the airbag came for the passenger. Then somebody realized that sometimes the impact comes from the side. So now you have airbags on the sides and all kinds of things. All right? Somebody wants to make a comment. Go ahead, sir.
Sir, there could be a condition that there should be a sensor installed in cars so that when two cars came very near, it automatically offs the engine. Yeah. Do something that it should avoid the two cars not to tackle with each other.
Very good. So he says, can we develop a system where we can avoid accidents? Right? So there's a whole dimension. There's a lot of things one can do to avoid accidents. There's a lot of things one can do to prevent injuries when there are indeed accidents, and so on and so forth. So a lot of things, guys. A lot of things. All right. Let's come back to our utility patterns. That's where the conversation was yesterday. So you say three things I got to satisfy. Three things. One is novelty, new. Number two, utility. Number three, non-obvious. So one of the greatest inventions of all time is a light bulb. So let's just study light bulb a little bit. Okay? Light bulb is based on what? Light bulb was based on some very simple scientific principles that everybody knew. Let me tell you what those scientific principles were. Right? Everybody knew those scientific principles. So you got to understand, light bulb is an invention, but those scientific principles are not. The first scientific principle. The first one says, if you pass current through a material, you're not saying what material. It applies to every material. If you pass current, electric current through a material, it heats up. It consumes energy, right? Electrical current actually is delivering some energy. So where would that energy go? It becomes heat. So it gets heated up. All right. So number one, pass current, materials heat up. Number two, a lot of materials, when they get heated up, they give out light. We know this. In fact, even iron, right? At about 1000 degrees, I think it's about 1000 degrees centigrade or Fahrenheit, or whatever the temperature is, iron begins to radiate light. A lot of materials begin to radiate light when they get heated up. So the first principle, when you pass electric current, materials heat up. The second scientific principle, materials, when they get heated up, they give out light. The third scientific principle, when materials get heated up, they burn out. They burn out. Because you guys know burning out means what? What does it mean, burning out? It catches fire. It burns out. Now, okay, everybody sees that here. So three scientific principles everybody knows about. It's like a material of, I don't know, grade 10, grade 8 science. Right? So how come you take these three things, three principles, and you create a light bulb? What is so inventive about the light bulb? Do you understand how these three principles were used for the light bulb? Number one, you're going to choose some material. What was that material that was chosen for a light bulb? Tungsten. Very good. So you say tungsten gives out light, right? When you pass a current, how are you going to pass a current? Connect it through an electrical circuit, right? And you pass some current. The tungsten little wire, winding, cabling, whatever you want to call it, that thing has some resistance. V equal to IR, you pass some current, you generate some heat, and the material lights up. Very good. But now, so everybody sees this, the first two principles, right? Pass the current, material heats up. The third one says it's going to oxidize. So how do you prevent oxidation? You have to stop it, right? So how do you prevent oxidation? Say something more. Say again.
Create a vacuum. Place it in vacuum.
Place it. Okay, folks, what is the fundamental thing behind oxidation? What do you need for oxidation? You need oxygen, right? So all you don't need to place it in vacuum. All you need to do is take out oxygen. So typically you try to fill, that's where you need the glass chamber. You're going to fill it with nitrogen. Because nitrogen is abundantly available in atmosphere we call air. Okay? So all of these scientific principles are known. So why is light bulb an invention? Folks?
Combining these things for a particular purpose.
So when you looked at these scientific principles, it was reasoned that it was not always that a certain blend of these scientific principles in a certain way, the material, the passing of the current, avoidance of oxidation, and so on, all of these things taken together, all of these independently, there were three scientific principles, but when you combine them together, it was seen to be a non-obvious way of doing it. Okay, so we are not going to be able to claim ownership for science. Cannot. But you claim ownership for how you use that science to provide for something that is valuable to human beings. Okay? I believe I've also talked about the phenomenon of condensation, right? I think I talked about it. Have I not?
Yes, yes.
I believe I talked about the condensation. All right? How you get hand dryers made from the fundamental principle of condensation. All right? You have the second law of thermodynamics, guys. Right? But the second law of thermodynamics does not tell you how to make a refrigerator. You're going to use that second law of thermodynamics. All right? But what you do when you create the refrigerator is what you get to own as your intellectual property. Okay? Second law of thermodynamics is universal. All right. Any other questions anybody has on this? We're going to keep moving here. Any questions, any comments? All right, let's keep moving then. So we understand all these different types of intellectual properties, but remember, the reason why you engage in any of these activities, the reasons are purely commercial. We have reasoned this, right? So every time you invent, you would want to seek exclusive ownership to that piece of your idea or your invention, and that ownership is given to you for a limited time. For a limited time. After that, it belongs to everybody. Okay? But 21 years is a lot of time. Especially these days, technology moves very fast. So what you invent today, 3 years, 4 years down the road, it may not be as useful. All right, who knows? And this is also a process that tells you have to engage. It's not enough to do this just once. You have to do this constantly. All right, you have to do it. No other choice. All right, folks. This is the story on trademarks, and trademarks are actually valuable because they create recognition of that business in the minds of customers and consumers. So this is very sort of important for businesses. I give you a simple example. So you have, by the way, there was some litigation on iPad. Trademark for iPad in China was owned by a Chinese company. So they had to be paid lots and lots of money, and Apple actually has a lot of money. Okay? But they had to pay a lot of money for Apple to be able to use iPads in China. But you have seen FedEx, right? Everybody's seen FedEx. Now, how these trademarks are designed, it's quite remarkable. So do you see, if you want to collect the E and the X, you see the arrow. That basically tells you we sort of move the goods from point A to point B. You look at Amazon. Amazon is, see the little arrow that goes from A to Z? That tells you we carry everything from A to Z. All right? All kinds of things. But essentially, it's a very compact, very neat way of presenting what your company is all about. Very important, guys. Okay? Very important. So, as far as we're concerned, two things. Typically, trademark is more business-oriented. It's how the rest of the world will view you, how the rest of the world will sort of remember you, and so on. And then you have something on the inside, which is all this intellectual property that you get to own. But then at the end of the day, you still have to commercialize that intellectual property. Okay. Anything creative, you have copyright. So these are all the different types of ownerships that you have. Trade secrets, we'll talk about it. Okay, talk about patents. I think we have had some very extensive conversation on patents. Very extensive. So I'm going to say a little less today, and hopefully there will be some Q&A. There can be some further, back and forth that we can have to clarify whatever it is that's on our minds. Okay, the patents, the three things, right? Novelty, usefulness, and non-obviousness. Okay, patent. Patent is going to describe. But everybody understands the phrase prior art now. Whatever exists till the time you file, you go to the government and say, I have an invention, here's my description. So typically in that description, you have to put in everything. Because the government cannot give you ownership of something that you don't include. You got to include everything. All right? So this is a very comprehensive document that you need to prepare. You need to describe what the prior art is, meaning in my area, this is what has been done up to this point. You have to describe very extensively your own invention. Your invention may have multiple parts, multiple different ways of solving that particular problem. So you have many ways of advancing the prior art. So you're going to describe the prior art, your own invention in great length. And then you're going to include, then you have a set. So we talk about the background, the prior art, your invention, a detailed description. And eventually, you have to say what exactly you claim the ownership for. What you claim the ownership for is called a claim. And it's a series of claims. It's a series of claims. Each claim is entitling you, once you get those claims approved, each claim entitles you to ownership of what the description is inside the claim. All right? So typically when you say it's, I have an invention whereby I can say, for example, my invention, example only, my invention uses screws that are 1 inch long. Now, your claim is 1 inch screw, and I now have a 1.1 inch screw, and therefore I don't violate your invention, right? Because you have claimed 1 inch screw. So typically, there is nothing so special about a 1 inch screw. So typically, when you write your claims, you write them as widely as possible. So you never are going to say 1 inch screw. You're going to say a screw of sufficient length. Whatever that means, sufficient length. All right? So these claims, what you want to own is as much as possible. Right? If you can own the whole world, why not? Right? Makes sense, right? This is where you're going to make money. So this is where a lot of this parenting is managed by lawyers. But folks, you guys, when you engage in business, when you engage in new product design, when you are dealing with the markets, by this time, it should be clear to you that you are speaking 3 different languages. The language of technology, engineering, science, that's one language. The second language you are speaking is the language of business. Because you want to make money, you want to do new products. You have to have a sense of competition, the markets, and so on. So that's the second one. Okay? And the third one is the language of law. When you say ownership, now your invention is no longer an invention in technology. It's an invention that has to meet a certain legal standard. So the standards are legal. They're not technical. Standards are legal. Okay? But very simple stories. 3 conditions. You satisfy those 3 conditions. You have yourself a patent. Alright? Everybody sees it here. Alright, so this would be typically the structure of a patent. You would say what the title is. It will tell you what the date of the grant is, the patent number. You have to write some kind of an abstract when you file it, and so on and so forth. See, the inventors are here. There are 2 inventors, but who gets to own it is Creative Technology. This is a patent that was actually, it's a Singapore-based company, Creative Technology. Has anybody heard of Creative Technology? Speakers. Very good. Till the time Creative came around, computers were largely used for, they only have 2 types of sounds, ding and a dong. Nobody thought of using a computer for media applications. So no audio, no video, no multimedia, nothing. It was all bits, zeros and ones. So these guys realized a huge opportunity. All right, huge opportunity. So they were the first ones to enrich your computing environment with media. All right, be it audio, be it video, be it whatever. So it was actually very remarkable that the person saw the use of computing for use of for media. Okay, but are we still using? Does anybody know if Creative did an MP3 player? They actually did, and their MP3 player technically was far superior to MP3 player than Apple did. They were far better. They were not far better in terms of marketing. They were far better in terms of technology. Okay? No wonder nobody here has ever heard of anything about the MP3 player. But never mind. Okay, so that's basically structure of the pattern. Okay? You naturally would want to cite the prior art. It's not enough for you to say the prior art is this, this, and that. You've got to say the sources. Alright, so you say the prior art in that patent is this patent is this, and so on, and you have to draw upon your own self and say, my invention is different from the prior art in these ways. And eventually, you will have a set of claims. This is your ownership. That's your land. That's your property. Okay? Alright, so this is how the patent looks like, the background and the prior art. This is the definition. You're going to include all kinds of embodiments. My invention does this. One way of doing it in my invention is this. Another way of doing it in my invention is this, and so on. Those are called embodiments. For example, you could, by the way, mean, even simple things. You know, the early days, when you pick up the phone, you press a key, it directly goes to the telephone exchange, right? So say if I remember that even the rotary screen or the digital doesn't matter. As soon as you press a button, it directly sends a signal to the telephone exchange. Now your mobile phones, are they sending the signal right away? Are they, or do you have to punch in the entire numbers? And that's when you press the call button, that's when it goes to the telephone exchange. All right? So even these things, all right, even these things are worthy of intellectual property protection. Okay? So a lot of this kind of stuff goes on, guys. I mean, I can cite example after example in telecoms that today when you look at, you say it's so trivial. But at the time, when it is invented, it was not trivial. Okay, I'll give a couple more examples of this. All right, folks, so you're going to give embodiments. And then finally, you will claim your own ownership. That's your claim. All right, that's your claim. Okay, so the definition, of course, is the wider this claims is, right, bigger this land is, better it is for you. Okay, so therefore, you're going to have as broad set of claims as possible, as broad as set. Okay, now, folks, let's understand these claims a little bit. I have a phone, I have a camera. Can I just say combine these two and it becomes a new invention? Gotta be careful. Now, you have to again, folks, the thing is the test is always the same. Is it novel? Has it been done before? Is it useful? And number three, is it non-obvious? Okay? So when you have A, you have B, and you say A plus B, you have to reason that A plus B was non-obvious. And if it is obvious, don't get any intellectual property protection. Okay? So you have to walk the same walk. The reasoning remains pretty much the same. All right? And remember, we have already argued that it's good to be at 51. Right? Because the market has already reached up to 50. So we just want to be one step ahead, not 500 steps ahead. Go ahead. Can you pass the microphone to him, please?
So, in the case of that mobile and camera, so we can put it together and file a patent. But the thing is that won't the owner of that camera and mobile, won't they ask me for a royalty since I am using their technology and combining it?
By the way, you see the point. The point is, and that's exactly the point. You say, I invent a device that's a combination of a phone and a camera. But then my invention is landlocked. There is this camera fellow on the left, and there is this phone fellow on the right. So what do? You have to negotiate a right of passage, right? Your invention there, you yourself may not be able to practice your invention. You may not be able to get to your own land because you have to negotiate a right of passage. But then you can definitely prevent someone else from walking over your land. Okay? So you have to understand these inventions very carefully, guys. It's not like, oh, I invented, I can make a product and bring it out in the market because it's my invention. Not necessarily so. Okay, folks, so I'll give simple examples here. So we'll run some simple scenarios, and then I want to give a couple of more sort of practical examples and see what you guys think. All right, so this is your invention. All right, see this? A, B, C, C. These are all the elements of your invention. You have what is called a specification, right? So now, this is your claim. Remember the claim? This is what you own. So you own a certain cup that has a particular type of a handle. The rim of the cup is of certain type, and you can use it for certain liquor, certain type of liquids in a better way, whatever that means. Now somebody comes out with this competitor's product. Are they violating you guys? Are they infringing? You say they are doing, for them to enable what they're doing, they need A, B, C, and E. Now you need A, B, A, B, C, D. So now you cannot cut D away. You have included your D, right, as a part of your invention. You cannot take it away. So this fellow here, but they're still using ABC, but they're not using D, they're using E. Are they infringing? The answer is no. Right? Maybe partially answers your question also. Infringement? No. Alright? By the way, infringement means they have to be violating this thing 100%. 100%. So you cannot say, oh, this is like, I have 4 elements, 3 are being used here. 3 doesn't mean anything. They have to be violating all 4. Okay? Alright, so this one, that's your invention. This is your claim. Now you didn't need D. So when you exclude D, you're expanding the scope of your property. I don't need D. As long as somebody is using ABC, that's my property. Okay? We say, now the competition is doing A, B, C, and E. Therefore, you can actually fence. You say this thing around here is my ABC. Alright? So you are able to sort of fence it, or you are able to sort of put your hand and you say, if I put my hand here, that's ABC. Right? If I put my hand here, it's ABC. So the fellow now is infringing. Okay? See this? You can fence it. So it's a lot of different ways. This is now I'm sort of venturing into a lot of very legalistic arguments. But the point, the drift is clear. I'm not here training you guys on writing claims, because the claims, again, remember, the claims only exist in the legal world. It's good for somebody who has had training in doing legal documentation. It's really best for that person to come in. But I'm not sure about India, but many countries around the world require patent lawyers to have their first degree in either science or engineering. I don't know about India. Okay. All right. So parents. So what can they do? What can they do? Right. So we have to talk about this. I want to go a little bit. I want to say a little bit further on. We understand all these strategies. Right. I want to talk a little bit about the timeline, because some questions came yesterday, and I think you need to know. So the very first, every time you have an idea, so this, you see this idea promoted by a light bulb. All right. So you have an idea. Now, nobody, whether you share the idea with somebody or you keep it to yourself, remember, you make it a public disclosure. All right. You make a public disclosure for an idea. It's no longer an idea that can be patented. Right. It's very clear to everybody. So you cannot be standing, for example, in fact, to the extent that when I teach, I tell the students that as students in the university, you have signed a non-disclosure agreement. You need to say, whatever it is that we talk about in the classroom, you cannot go out and share that with your friends. As soon as you share things with your friends, without any contractual commitment, it's public disclosure, and your patent is gone. But the possibility of securing a patent is gone. All right. So now you're going to do. See, nobody knows when the idea is formed. But at 0, you're going to apply. You're going to make an application. You're going to draft whatever it is you're going to draft. You're going to write some kind of a narrative. You're going to draw some pictures. You're going to have some flow charts, maybe whatever. Usually, it's a document. It's not a multimedia thing. It's a document that you're going to prepare, and along with a certain amount of fees, you need to say who the inventors are, what their addresses are, and so on and so forth. You're going to a certain government body, whether you go online or you go physically, and you're going to make an application. All right? That application has to be complete in some respects, but it does not have to be complete in all respects. Okay. The fees is also reasonable. The fees is very reasonable actually at this stage. Because remember, countries, governments around the world want to promote people, right? They want to promote economic well-being. So one way to get economic well-being is for people to invent, right? Because that makes money. Okay? So they will actually facilitate this. At the end of 12 months, that's when you file the next application. So you have 12 months. You have 12 months to decide whether you're going to file the next one or not. You could actually discontinue. You could say, at that time when I thought of it, it looked great. But now you have 12 months to evaluate and assess the markets, right? You also have 12 months to further assess the prior art. So 12 months. So you have a certain window of opportunity. Take that time, 12 months. And then you're going to say, now I will file a regular application. Okay? A regular application. Now, till this time, what you file is not published. Nobody knows what you're filing. My application is with Indian Patent Office, but no one else has seen it. Okay? Nobody knows what the contents are for that invention. All right? 18 months. All right? Remember, this is 0. Is when you file. 12 months, you file the secondary application. In 18 months, that's when the application is published. Now, all of this process, folks, you have no control over. Okay? Whether it's good or bad, we can debate. We can keep on debating, good or bad. All right? But this is what the process is, as decided by many of these countries that are signatories to Patent Cooperation Treaty. Okay? What does that mean? That means my invention is now published on the net. Anybody and everybody can access my invention. And my invention is a complete invention. Remember, the government cannot give you rights. You don't tell the government what your invention is. So now, whatever your invention was is publicly known to everybody. Can people start to make products out of this? It's published now. The answer is yes. It's not granted. The government has not approved your application and given you those rights, but it's being published. All right. Now, somewhere here in this process, I think it's from 0 to about 30 months. About 30 months, that's about 2.5 years. About 30 months, you also need to decide which countries you want to go to. All right. Right now, it was an international application. All right. And then within 30 months, you got to figure out which countries you're going to go to. Typically, for computing, it's the US. For others, it could be others. Now, those are commercial considerations. And folks, there's a lot of money involved. All right? So don't think it's a trivial exercise. It's not. It's a very expensive exercise. I give a simple example. And this is something I learned, so to speak, in a very hard way. That one time I got carried away with one of my inventions. I said, wow, this one is going to make a ton of money. Okay, fine, but you got to now first spend a ton of money. So I spent quite a bit of money on trying to secure intellectual property rights in Korea, China, Japan. Now, why am I bringing these countries up? When you do anything in Japan, what language is that? Japanese. Now, when you look at me, how much Japanese do I know? All I know is a long time ago there was a song, right? Sayonara. So that's the only Japanese word I know, sayonara. All right, but that sayonara will not give me any patent. What do? Your documents now, you write in English, you have to give it to somebody who can translate them to Japanese. And folks, it's not Google translation. It's not Google. It's an expert who charges you about $100 a page to convert the application from English to Japanese. You submit. They will examine. They raise some objections. Which language are they using? Japanese. Now it comes back to this fellow. He's going to translate. I get the English translation. You see the trouble? I reply back in English, Japanese. You see the process? After a while, it has happened to me. After like 2 rounds, I could not understand anything. The reply was still translated in English. I was paying for it. I could not understand what that English meant. Something gets wrong, right? I mean, you keep translating back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Eventually, you lose it. Okay? So, I've done this in Korea. It's a Korean language, expensive. China, you say China is a huge market, very expensive. Japan, very expensive. So, typically, maybe not all the time, typically, you tend to stick to countries where at least there is language uniformity. So language uniformity means you can start with New Zealand, Australia, you can talk about Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, keep moving guys, Vietnam perhaps, India, you go to the West, Europe, then of course Canada, United States. That's quite big. That's quite a big sort of thing. When it comes to just one language, you're able to go to that many countries. Okay? All right. And then it gets granted somewhere down the road. You're able, so somebody will raise the objections to your applications. There will be some review and so on, but eventually either you decide to give it up, you forget it, or the examiner says, forget it. No, I'm not going to do this. This is no good. Or somewhere along the line, there be a positive decision. And then you have about 20, 21 years. Okay? And folks, this is a very expensive proposition. The government has to maintain a registry, right? Because they gave the rights. They have to maintain a registry of the rights. And the government never does anything for free. So in order for the government to maintain a registry of your intellectual property rights, they charge you. They call it maintenance fees, but essentially they charge you. Everybody sees that here. Questions on the process of securing intellectual property rights? Any questions? No questions. All right. Some provisional. This is really not critical. It gets very expensive. I already said that. By the way, I want to sort of take a couple of examples. So even before I take this example, let me give an example associated with automobiles. Okay, so automobiles. When it rains, are people still driving when it's raining? Yes. So how do you clean? You know, the rain is falling on your windshield. How do you look across? It's a windshield wiper. Okay, it's a windshield wiper. So what happens? Sometimes it rains very hard. Sometimes it drizzles. Right? Very light rain, very heavy rain. So what happens? Depending on whether it's light rain or heavy rain, you got to get rid of that much water. Okay? So understand this well. I mean, this is crazy. So you say, okay, what am I going to do? What I'm going to do is, I have some kind of a button, depending on say high, medium, low, some kind of a button, and if it's raining very hard versus raining very slow, I'm going to turn the button on, and it's going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, back and forth, and the speed with which it goes is a function of the amount of rain. All right. Everybody see that here? The speed with which it goes. Now remember, this is windshield. You're sitting right behind. It's like kind of like almost touching your nose, right? And it's going to move slow. If it's a drizzle, it's going to move very fast. If it's raining very hard. Everybody see that here? Okay. Now, have you sat behind a car like that, where the windshield wiper goes very slow? Like it's very light rain. It drizzles. It goes very slow, right? Very slow. It's very irritating. Very irritating. So what is the solution? What did somebody come up with? What? Come on, guys, windshield wiper. What is the solution? Okay.
Raise the speed of motor, wiper motor.
Very good. So you say, you know, it's drizzling, very light. So it's this thing, darn thing is going to move very slow. So it's in your face. It's taking 20 seconds to go down, 20 seconds to go up, 20 seconds, 20 seconds, right? And so on. It's very irritating. So what is the solution? Somebody said, I want to get rid of water. That's my problem. So why do I not do this? I'm going to go one massive swish, very fast. So, right? So it's not going slow when it's drizzling. It's not going very fast when it's heavy rain. Whether it's heavy rain or it's drizzle, it's going to go at the same speed. So what do I control? I don't control that motion. That one swish is always at the same speed. What do I control? The frequency. The number of times this thing is going to move. So if it's light rain, it's going to move very slow, right? In terms of frequency. So maybe I go for like every 10 seconds, I go one swish. But that one swish is 1 second only. Everybody see that here? If it's getting very heavy, maybe I'm going to go 5 swishes, right? In the same amount of time. I increase the frequency. But each swish will take the same time. Everybody got it? Okay. So somebody got a patent on it. By the way, this sounds like 51 points, right? On the scale, 0 to 100. There is already a car, there is already a windshield, there is already a wiper. Right? All we are doing is basically playing around with how the wiper moves on the windshield. That's the only thing. Right? So this sounds like 51. Very good. So 51 can be seen as 49. So a lot of automobile companies saw this as 49, meaning it is so obvious. It is a pattern. Now they can also challenge the pattern in the court. So a lot of these companies, they build this technology into their windshield wiper, not paying a single cent to the inventor. So what is the only legal recourse the inventor has? Go to the courts. To the courts. And now you are litigating against the likes of Toyota, Honda, General Motors, Ford Motor Company, all these big giants. Lots of money they have. But they will not give you 10 rupees. They will not give you. All right? Because they are running a commercial enterprise. They got to make money. All right? So what happens then? What do the courts decide? In this case, the courts decided in the favor of the person who had done the invention. All right? So when the first decision came, it was kind of like a shock. But and the first decision was against one automobile company. As soon as the decision goes against one automobile company, what happens to the next? Are they still going to go to the courts and fight? The answer is no. So they all come and take a license. The fellow made close to $300-400 million. Okay, lots of these. There are lots of these kinds of stories, guys. Lots of crazy stories about intellectual property. Look at this one. Okay, this one says, I have a cup. Everybody knows what a cup is. I have coffee. What is the problem? If coffee is very hot, the cup gets hot. If I hold it, I may burn my hands, I may drop the cup, and so on. So the invention is a sleeve. See this? The invention is a sleeve that goes around the cup. Have you seen this sleeve somewhere? In coffee shops, right? When you go to say, for example, Starbucks, and you say, I want to take coffee out, it's a takeaway. They are going to actually just sleeves right there. Give you the coffee, it's a sleeve. You can actually put your plastic or whatever type of glass you have, put it in the sleeve. So sleeve has been invented. Okay? So somebody has to invent all of these things. The phenomenon of heat transfer is well known. Everybody knows. Alright? So this is not about heat transfer. This is about using whatever properties heat transfer has to come out with a way to create a certain value so that people can drink their tea, coffee, their hot drinks, but not burn their fingers or drop it because it's very hot. Okay? Lots of this. And folks, it's very detailed. Look at this. Look at there's some diagrams here. Look at the details. All right? You have to describe and all the details. So you see that it's like a little raised thing. And what you have is air inside. And it's actually air that prevents the heat from escaping and burning your fingers. Right? But it can be any shape. See, there's a covering on the top, there's a covering on the inside, and then you have these floatings. But this shape, you see, either you can have this kind of shape or a triangular shape, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, right? So you got to cover all of these things. So it's a very comprehensive document that you're writing. At the end of it, what you write is what you can claim ownership for. Nothing else. All right, folks, this one tells you there is not one way of doing it. All right, remember the earlier one. You see this? This is like a round thing. This is like a round thing. All right, this one tells you, where did it go? It's not round. It's actually a flat. You can adjust. There is a cut here, and then you slide one end. It's like a flat thing. You roll it, and then you slide it. So it can actually, depending on the size of the cup, there can be 3 cups, and you can adjust the thickness of this. A lot of different ways, guys. So when you invent, don't think that your invention, now if it does, that's great. But many times the inventions are not so valuable that, oh, if you don't use my invention, you cannot solve the problem. Your invention is one way of solving a problem. Is it the only way? If it's the only way, that's a wonderful story. But many times it's not the only way. Okay? It's not the only way. All right. Folks, there are all kinds of things. Amazon has a pattern on what they call one-click shopping. All right. So you go create your shopping cart. As soon as you press buy, transaction is executed. All right. One-click shopping. You have Google's. It's called page ranking pattern. So they have an algorithm. Remember, Google presents you pages, right? One after the other. So somehow they got to figure out the relevance of the pages to the search, right? That you initiated. So in order to come up with the order, and there's a lot of, now of course you can pay for ads to show up on the top for certain keywords and so on, right? But essentially, how you rank these pages in terms of their relevance to you when you initiate a search, there's a pattern on it. There's pattern on all kinds of things, all kinds of things. Okay, now, never mind. I wanted to sort of engage in this IP exercise, but I'm not gonna at this time. Maybe I don't want to engage in the IP exercise just as an IP exercise, but I want to sort of alert you guys on Monday from 3 to 4:30. We have product presentations. Remember, you guys are in teams of 4, right? Remember that? Okay. So you guys have been working on a certain product. So you will be making some presentation. So maybe you can talk about, is there something in your product that is inventive? Okay? Is there something in the product that is inventive? And let's see where that thing goes. All right? Questions, comments? Intellectual property. Folks?
Are intellectual properties hereditary in nature?
Are intellectual properties?
Hereditary in any way? For example, sir,
Can you, will the microphone still work? I'm not sure. Where is the microphone? Can somebody pass it to him, please? Please, nobody, am I holding to that microphone? Okay, never mind. Just to speak up, sir.
Sir, for example, if a scientist, a great scientist, made some hello.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, my question is that, for example, a great scientist made some intellectual thinking, very of high level,
Okay.
and he discussed with his son, and after 2 days he died. Let's be a hypothetical situation, and he announced that he will. The scientist announced 2 days before his death that he will do a certain thing, or he will say something about that particular matter. So after his death, can his son be the main person who can use that intellectual right, or even his the scientist assistant could use that?
Very good. Can somebody answer this? Now we have had like what, about 3 hours of lectures on intellectual property, right? So we are somewhere. Maybe not. We haven't understood everything. Not everything has been described, but we have been talking about it for some time. So can somebody help us out?
Yes, sir. The son may claim the right, since first of all he has to go to the court and claim that all the property that his father has is rightfully his, and after he get all the rights, then only he can get a claim for that patent that it's his.
Okay. So a little bit of yes and no. Very good. I think this is good. A short answer will be, folks, understand this well. Whenever you have legal disputes, it's quite another story. Okay? But let's say I go to the Indian Patent Office and I say, this is my invention. I give them a write-up. do they have an independent means to verify that indeed I am the person who created this write-up that I'm claiming to be the invention? Do they have any independent means of verifying? The answer is no, they don't. So therefore, whenever anybody files, unless there is a court somewhere that will decide on whether the inventors were actually rightful inventors or not, the courts are going to say we cannot independently verify. Therefore, if you put your name on that document, we're going to sort of assume you actually, when you put your name on an invention and you apply for a patent, you're signing a declaration. It's like you are making an affidavit. And if you lie on the affidavit, there are legal consequences. Okay? So we're not going that far. But here in this case, when you said there was a scientist and his son, right? So maybe the scientist was describing this invention to his son, but the scientist is no more. But the son now has a sense of it. Now, the son could say, I contributed. Remember, folks, there's no such thing as I contribute 2% to the invention and I contribute 98%. All inventors are the same. All right? All inventors are the same. So by right, the fellow could go make the application and somehow be able to establish inventorship in his or her name. All right? Very difficult to verify independently. Now, if you have only one person, it's very difficult. But if there are two people and they fight, that's when the trouble starts. That's when you go to the court, you say, no, this fellow was never meant to be an inventor. There was some coercion, there was some force. Somebody put a gun to my head and I had to sign the papers, things like that. Who knows what? But, excuse me, a short answer to your question is the right of ownership, okay, unless there are challenges and disputes and so on, the right to the ownership goes to the person whose name shows up as the inventor on that application, unless that right has been assigned to some other person. All right, when you invent, it's your right to own it, right? I told you that. But if you have already signed an employment contract with your employer, with your company, saying, if I invent, you give me my paycheck. If I invent, it belongs to you. But by right, it belongs to the person who is the inventor. That's a natural right to ownership. Okay? All right, others, guys? Everybody all right on this? Intellectual property. This is very crazy. Let me give you guys one example of something I actually thought of back in 2004. So this is like 14 years ago. I invented something which is now being very widely used. The idea was this. The idea actually arose out of privacy concerns. So the problem I was trying to solve was the problem of I want to talk to you, but I want to give you, I want to talk to you, but I don't want to give you my phone number. You see this? Remember caller IDs? Yes. Caller IDs are very bad. I call you once, you get my number, you can call me forever. That's really bad. I don't want you to call me. It was a one-time transaction, right? So we were talking about creating in some ways disposable phone numbers. So I give you a phone number, you can call me. Tomorrow I don't want you to call me, I throw that number away. So disposable numbers. All right, everybody see the problem here. So this is something we thought of in 2004. And the idea was, like I said, the idea is, but keep it simple. All right, you cannot change the phone network. That's one thing. You cannot change the consumer behavior. The consumer behavior is against somebody's, you create a phone book entry, right? And you go to that phone book entry and you press the green button. So we wanted to keep the same user behavior, but add another layer of application on top, whereby I don't have to give you my number, but I can call you. And you can call me back. But I never shared my number with you. You see this? I never. Are there applications like that? Folks, today, has anybody used Ola in India? You have used Ola. So are you able to call the driver? Yes. Does the driver know your number? The answer is no. No. Ola knows the number, but the driver does not know the number. Okay? So there is a way to patch two people. There is a way to patch two people without them exchanging their phone numbers. Alright, so that was something we thought of back in 2004. The name of the company that I founded, it was called, it was a Hindi word actually. It was called Fatte Telecom. You understand the word Fatte? It's basically a Hindi/Punjabi word for casual conversation. To me, when I was a student in IIT, we used to say Fatte Mara. So the name of the company was Fatte Telecom. But never mind. So I typically have tended to invent in telecoms because I am skilled in the art in telecoms. I may not be skilled in the art in many other areas. All right? But the opportunities abound. I mean, no matter where you look, there are lots and lots of opportunities. But folks, as I bring this session on intellectual property to a close, you have to understand that intellectual property is only one of the many ways for you to create value in the marketplace. It's not the only way. It's one of the many ways. There are a lot of other ways out there. All right? We are basically talking about human ingenuity, human creativity, human intellect. All right? But at the end, you're going to use all of this and much more to sort of create value and harness value for yourself. That's where the challenge is. All right, I'm going to bring this one to a close. One more time. I think we are doing good on time. So if there is any Q&A, I'm more than happy to sort of engage in that Q&A. We are slowly. Okay, lecture number 9 is for tomorrow. I think tomorrow's lecture, everybody got it, right? Starting at 10 o'clock. Because there is a tea garden visit at 11. All right. So let's talk about this. Product planning, platform, and architecture. Okay. So what's going on? You have figured out what product you're going to do. You have a mission statement. You have understood the intellectual property rights that are associated with the technologies you will use and so on. But at the end, all of this now needs to we need to turn towards execution. All right, so we're now slowly turning towards execution. Somewhere along the line, we've got a plan for our product. We have to talk about where the heck are we going to manufacture the product? What kind of labor do we need? What kind of equipment do I need? And so on and so forth. A lot of questions associated with building of the product. You understand the concepts. We've tested the concepts in the marketplace with the customers. We have done some benchmarking. So markets have already come in. But now the markets will come in even in a more intense way. All right, in a more intense way. Let's see how all of this plays out. All right, we have already done this so quick that I don't need to spend time summarizing. Right? But there's something else here. I want to say, and this one, very good. Folks, this one says the art of making money. Why is making money an art? Why is making money not science? Why is it art? First of all, is it really art? Before I pose the question of why, I have to pose the question of what. So is making money an art?
Yes.
In what way is it an art?
It's a technique based on your experiences and your own mental strength. Means a man who is very much intelligent, maybe from a Harvard University, has not the talent of making money, but a simple man studying here in the local school has the chances of making money. Making money is a different thing, sir. It doesn't relate totally with education and money.
Very good. I cannot challenge anything he's saying. Everything you have said, sir, is well said. Thank you. Folks, others?
I'd like to give an example, sir.
Go ahead.
There is a DS group.
Can you pass him the microphone, please? You have the microphone, right? Sir, don't hide the microphone away. Use it.
Sir, there is a brand DS Group
DS Group.
in Noida, which makes Rajnigandha, and catch masale, spices. The owners of the DS group both are Dharampal and Satpal, and they are not very much educated. Means I think they are not even matriculate, 10th pass. So it doesn't mean they don't know how to make money. They have set up an industry, very big industry.
What can I say? The example he has taken is actually a complete blowout. It's incredible. Okay, but before I just stop there, someone else wants to add to what he's saying. Can you pass the microphone to the back, please?
It's going to be a science.
Sir.
So it's going to be scientific. There will be some cause and effect, but making money doesn't seem to be what to say. We cannot clearly tell what is the cause and what is the effect.
Okay.
So
Very
it
good.
should be more hard.
Very good. So you see, science, right? Science says there is gravity. So the gravity is in Silchar, gravity is in Silicon Valley, is the same gravity. All right? So science is basically dealing with nature. Right? Art deals with humans. So when you're engaging in making money, you're engaging in a human activity. It's not science, it's arts. Okay, very good. Well said, sir. But let me come to this example that he chose to discuss. It's quite incredible. He even remembers the names of the people. I think originally the family came from Kanpur, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so this is UPIs who are doing this business. But it has nothing to do with whether you are UP or not, right? I mean, this is human ingenuity. But they came out with what he calls it. What was the brand? Rajnigandha.
Yes.
Were they the first ones to come out with pan masala?
No, yes, they used to, but Rajnigandha has captured the market very well.
Okay, very good. So what is the, pan masala is a very, you guys know what pan masala is first of all. You know, right? Pan masala can be sada pan masala, sada meaning no tobacco, or it can be, I think tobacco in that language is called jarda. Is it called jarda?
Yes.
It's called jarda. So you can put jarda inside the pan masala, regular, and then it's like, if you can get high on that pan masala. Okay? Very good. Okay, never mind. I'm not here to. But the thing is, fundamentally, folks, here's the deal. Innovation is not, as he said, somebody from Harvard versus somebody from Silchar. That's a fair point. Now let's come to pan masala. Can somebody articulate the prior art of pan masala? How was till the time pan masala was invented? What was happening? People were chewing pan, right? But how were they chewing pan? Come on, guys. You guys don't chew pan at all. But you know what pan is, right? It's like a green leaf of some kind. You have the tuna, you have the katha, you have the safari. So you think I probably eat a lot of pan, right? I absolutely don't eat pan. But I'm just telling you because it's a remarkable story of business enterprise. Remarkable story. Okay, that he brought up. Okay, folks, come on. So you have the katha, you have the tuna, all kinds of things. And then you can say, Bhaiya, isko thoda meetha kar dena. Meetha means you're going to get some gulkan. Right? Or you can say jarda, and then jarda is like, I don't know, some kind of flakes they put on the pan, right? And then they will wrap it up, right? And then you're going to put it in one corner of your mouth, and then you're going to chew it slowly, like, like a bhans, right? you know what jugali is, right? You understand the word jugali? Right? Okay, very good. So that's what you're going to do. It's like jugali. Okay, never mind. Folks, first of all, two things. I'm describing to you in great details because I need to get something out of you guys. So that was the prior art. Now, can you tell me why do people chew? What's the value? Why is somebody chewing tobacco or pan? I'm not, by the way, I'm not here to sort of challenge tobacco, right? Let's not worry about it. Everybody knows tobacco causes cancer and all that. Never mind that. But if somebody, despite knowing that the darn thing is going to cause cancer, is still chewing pan, what's going on with pan? What is the science of pan? And then what is the art of pan? It's very close to us, right? Human beings. Pan. It goes in the mouth, it goes into our stomach. Very close. It's very close to our existence as human beings. So what is the science of pan? I take this tobacco thing, I put it in the mouth. What happens? What happens next? Go ahead, sir. Do we pass you the microphone? Folks, please talk.
It gives a sense of satisfaction to our mind.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. Let me explain. Let me add some more words to what he just said. The way it works, this is crazy. First of all, have you seen, I'm not sure if it happens in a game of cricket, but it happens in a game of basketball that is played in the US. Have you seen have you guys seen any basketball game played in NBA? Those players, many of them are constantly chewing. They say if you constantly chew, you're chewing from here, right? This jaw or this jaw. So as you chew, you are actually in the back, you're stimulating the brain. It keeps you more attentive because you're here, right? So as you move, you're actually touching this, the back part is touching the brain. It keeps it more active. That's one way. What's the other way? Folks, if you really need to understand, if you don't understand these things, you won't be able to make a product because you don't understand the human needs. Okay? So what happens next? Pan. I take some little bit of jarda, let's say, and I put it in the mouth. What was the first thing that the fellow puts? Is right above the first thing, above the leaf. Tuna. What does tuna do? Folks, what does tuna do? Come on, guys. You've never seen tuna? It's at the construction site. You put water on tuna, what happens? Nobody knows what happens to tuna. By the way, what's the English of tuna? Is it called lime?
Slate line. Slate line.
Slate line. Okay, slate line. Slate line. Okay, very good. Slate line. Okay, what happens? What happens when tuna that you got in the pond mixes with water? And where is the water in the mouth? Saliva. Very good. Saliva. Very good. What happens to the tuna? It's heat. It actually creates heat. It acts as a knife in your mouth. It causes little cuts and it makes your mouth bleed. Okay? Now, he talked about, he talked about feeling good or something, right? That's what you said. So what happens? Your mouth now has been cut. All right? It's bleeding. And now whatever that material is in the pond is going straight to your bloodstream. That's how, if you were to eat the pond, just eat it. All right? Goes inside. No tuna. It's going to take 20 minutes for it to be digested and come in your bloodstream. But then now you have cut the bloodstream right in the mouth. It's a very direct feed right to your bloodstream. That's how people get high very, very quickly. Haven't you seen people do this? What are they mixing? Tuna. Very good. Tuna. Why tuna? Right? Tuna laga rahe hain, right? Kya kar rahe hain? Right? Tuna is basically to create some little cuts in the mouth. All right? And that material, that intoxicating material, will find its way into your bloodstream directly. Okay, enough of this. So everybody understands pan now, right? You never thought pan was a scientific product. It's a very scientific product. All right, very good. We understand pan now. Let's come to pan masala. What is it? Now, if somebody makes lots and lots of money selling pan masala, of course there is a skill there. Rajnikanda has captured the market share. But what is the value proposition of pan masala? If there is no value proposition, it won't sell. So what is the value proposition of pan masala, guys? Can we pass the microphone? Sir, please. Go ahead.
I don't know about this. Maybe it's available in packets, boxes.
Very good. He says, if I want to get the, pan masala is in, if I want to get a pan, I have to go to a pan wala. Right? And you have lots of pan walas. Right? So remember, that's like, you want to go to the, whatever it is you want to do, you have to have an outlet that provides you with that service. So you have the pan walas. Pawn wallas are everywhere. They open till late because people need to get their pawns, right? Very good. But then it's still a problem. Still a problem. I want to remember the mobile phones. I want to be able to make a phone call right here, right now. Right? So how do I do it? Get a mobile phone. So therefore, I provide you with a box and it's dry. Because the liquid is really not needed, your mouth is going to provide the liquid. It's dry. It's very convenient. You can spill it. Right? If you carry like a little tiny a bottle of water, you put it in your luggage. If it spills, the luggage is gone. Right? So now we say pan masala is so simple. So the convenience of pan masala is universal access to pan and pan kinds of products, no matter where you are. Okay? So it is a remarkable innovation. Right? Now, of course, the health effects of this, God knows what the health effects are. But I have explained to you the value of pan. I have explained to you how that value is realized by putting tuna, how we now sort of extend that value further by making pan easily accessible wherever you go. Alright? It's incredible. That thing is so incredible. But the incredibility of pan does not come from any place else except for somebody understood human body. Somebody understood that if you want to have some kind of a feel good in your brain, the only way for the brain to feel good is for something to enter your bloodstream. That's the only way. The only thing that reaches your brain, the only way for you to reach the brain is through the blood. Nothing else. So they use tuna. Alright? Everybody good on this? Questions, comments? Of course, there will be lots of these kinds of examples. Lots of them. The closer you get to human beings, crazier is the art of making money. You wanted to add something?
I just want to add that in the first video that you showed, maybe education matters, but when you are close to the marketplace, when you are in the actual market, maybe you will understand what is the dynamics of business.
Sure.
So that would be a better thing than having Harvard education or something.
No. Look, Harvard, let's not worry about Harvard education. Okay. Now, why am I saying that? Because my son is graduate from Harvard Law. All right. So therefore, it's a little bit personal. But never mind that part. The point of the matter is, whether it comes about to you through Harvard education, or it comes about to you through some other education, or like he said, they're not even high school graduates, through no education, but then what you have learned, you have now educated yourself, not so much in a very traditional way of degree courses, but you have learned as to how people are behaving. And you have a certain knack for sensing an opportunity that arises out of a need that people have. That's the key part. Okay? So don't worry about, yes, absolutely. Don't think that if you have degree is equal to money. No such equation. No two things are equal. Okay? To me, when I look at education, to me it does not serve the purpose of degree is equal to money. It serves some other purpose. Okay? Alright, others. Folks, it's a very curious story. That's why it's hard. So you got to go something. So you say, lots of people want something, you do it, you make money. Right? That's one thing. Or lots of people want something and you stop others from supplying that. Right? You go intellectual property. Okay, lots of people want it, but I'm the only one who can provide it. All others cannot. You manage a competition, you make money. Technology keeps moving. Human behavior keeps moving along with technology. Alright? So why? Because there is nothing fundamental about going to a shop to buy something. Nothing fundamental. If you can get the same thing at home that somebody is willing to deliver, and if you think there is value, you save 10 rupees. If I have to go to the store, buy something, come back, it's 2 hours of my time, it's lots of money. Time and money are somewhat equivalent. No. So there's all these kind of stores. Brick and mortar is gone. You know what a brick and mortar store is? Like it's a shop. It's a physical shop. Now, when you order things through Amazon, you don't even know where Amazon is storing those things. Where the warehouse is. Nobody knows. Okay? All right. So folks, and then finally, this is even crazy. This one says life cycles are shrinking. So what happens? What does it mean? Life cycles are shrinking. Well, seriously, and I'm not kidding you. The bicycle that my father used when he was a student of, I think it was Agra University in the 50s. Okay, he was a student doing his MSc in mathematics in Agra University. He was living in Meerut. The bicycle he used was the bicycle, this was in the 50s, was the same bicycle that I used when I went to IIT Delhi in 1976. Same bicycle. All right? That bicycle was built in a way that it lasted for 30 years. Now, how about you guys? Your bicycles. Nothing is going to last for 30 years. Why? Right? Because your expectation has moved. Your expectation is no longer a bicycle should last for 30 years. And because you as consumers have stopped expecting a product to last you 30 years, the manufacturer of that product will not build that product for the product to last 30 years. Expectations have completely changed. All right? So the product life cycles are shifting. All right, why? The expectations have shifted. All right? So what's the deal today? How often do you guys change your mobile phone? Do you have it like 10 years? You've never changed your mobile phone? No. Every 2 years? Right? And then every 2 years? Okay, 1 year. Very good. 3 years? Very good. So on average, 1.5 years. All right, very good. See that? So the phones are built like that. The expectation is that lots and lots of people would want to change their phones. So for example, I'm not sure, I'm sure it happens here also. Do your mobile operators give you some discount? If you were to go for like a 2-year, 3-year plan, do they give you a discount on the phone? They expect you, they give you a discount. And a discount is actually a way to incentivize people, a way to basically alter the consumer behavior. So they give you a little discount and you're going to change your phone. 2 years later, they give you a discount again, change your phone. They're still making money, right? And you're a happy customer. So yes, I don't keep my phone for more than 2 years, right? But technically, what's wrong with those phones? Nothing. Nothing is wrong with those. Right? But that's the way the behavior is. But as far as we are concerned, we are here to sense opportunities. You see? So a mobile operator says, people want to change their phones every 2 years. So now how do I package my solution so that I can use this consumer behavior to make money for myself? All right? So all of these things and much more are, as far as we are concerned, we view them as opportunities. All right? So we've actually gone back a little bit. We've already done the concept development, but it's now going back to planning, and then we'll talk a little further about the architecture, and eventually, of course, manufacturing and so on. All right. So see, talk about identify the product planning, right? So identify the opportunities. You got to prioritize. You have a portfolio of projects, maybe 1 or 2. You have to now allocate your resources, time planning, and then execute that plan. Okay? So we're actually going one step back, right? Towards the very end, you have the mission statements here. All right, folks, we're going to take the example of this photocopier machine. And the crazy thing would be, you tend to use the same platform. You have a factory. You're going to manufacture, say, 5 products. Typically, you don't manufacture 5 products that require 5 different assembly lines. You don't, right? Typically, the products that you have, there are a lot of common elements in those products, all right? And you try to use the synergy between these products to reduce your cost for producing these products. Okay, that's called a platform. So a platform is a set of assets that you share across a family of products. So typically, it would be, even the distributors would be the same. You have 5 different products, but the distributors would be the same. All right, so say, for example, You do a low-end mobile phone, a medium-end mobile phone, a very high-end mobile phone. Right? A lot of the electronics is common. Maybe the software is slightly different. Maybe the plastic is slightly different. One has a very rich touch, the other one not so rich touch, and so on. All right? So you're going to do this. And typically the products are, the way we write the products, you have a platform that will give rise to products. You have the derivative products. All right? These are not fundamentally new products. All right? They're not fundamentally new. So, but they are sufficiently distinct from the first set of products. Okay? So those are derivatives. Then you have the improvements on the original products, and then once in a while only you will do a fundamentally new product. Okay? Now, when you look at the iPhone, remember you saw the introduction that that Mr. Steve Jobs had, right, of his iPhone. But was that iPhone a fundamentally new product? Was it fundamentally new? All it did was it took the media, which was the iPad. Sorry, not the iPad. What is it called? iPod. It took the iPod. It took the radio circuitry for the phone. And what was the third thing? Internet. Right? Essentially, he was doing all of those things. He was already doing all of those things. Maybe the radio circuitry for the iPhone they were not doing, but they were doing wireless. All right. For example, they have an iMac. They're already running the software. They're already browsing the web, and so on and so forth. So it was not fundamentally new products, folks, are not done that frequently. Typically, you have the platforms for doing the products, or you have the derivative products. Okay. All right. The key message out of all of this, all right. This couple of key messages that I want to focus on. The first one is, what exactly is your strategy for managing competition? Are you going to go low cost? Are you going to go for technological leadership, meaning my products are most sophisticated technology-wise? Are you going to sort of go for a certain customer focus and so on? What's different? You have different ways to manage competition. Don't think that cost is the only dimension you can play on. It's not the only dimension. A lot of different dimensions out there when it comes to managing competition. But this is, so you have all of this, right? So you're going to do the copier. And the copier, there's lots and lots of technology. But right now, when you look at the marketing, you have split the market for a copier into a personal market, very low number of pages per minute. Right? When you are at home, you're not printing 5,000 pages in one go. In fact, if you have a print job that requires 5,000, you go to a commercial company, right? You go to some printer, some company, say 5,000. All right? So at home, 20 pages. Then you have the workgroup, 4 to 5 people. And then you have like lots and lots of people in a company. So different sort of technologies will go in. Why? Because the user expectation and behavior is different. Okay? And you have to have a certain sense of technology to this. This is a curve. I want to spend quite a bit of time on. All right? This is really to get a sense of. Remember, we talked about disruptive innovation. This is where the disruptive innovation comes from. And I want to add one more type of innovation to our conversation, and that is known as reverse innovation. Okay? But before we get to reverse, let's talk about technology. And folks, you have to sort of participate here. What you have on the x-axis is time. What you have on the y-axis is performance. Okay? And folks, everything is quantitative. The time is quantitative, right? 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and so on. So what you have on the x-axis is time. What you have on the y-axis is performance. So in the case of copier, you could say the performance is how many pages per minute. 20 pages, 40 pages, 50 pages, whatever. You could also have performance in terms of cost. It doesn't matter what you choose. But you choose a certain thing, certain metric associated with your product, and you measure it. And that's your performance. All right. Look at the blue. The blue has been around for a much longer time. The blue started here. In the beginning, the blue technology was being developed in the lab. Right? And then when you reach this point, the red technology came around. Right? Some new technology. So P has been in the market for much longer time. B, so sorry, I'm sorry, not B, the blue and the red. Let's call them by the color. The blue has been around in the market for a longer time. You can say it's like my petrol-driven car has been around in the market for a longer time. You have a new technology. Is there a new technology for car? It's no longer petrol, right? Could be e-car, electric car, right? It's electricity. All right, very good. New technology. This is old technology, has been around much longer. And see the performance is on the y-axis. So right now, where we are, the blue technology is superior to the red technology. Everybody see that here. So where are we right now? Where we are is we are here. This is where we are right now. Everybody sees where we are. Which is superior at this time? The blue. The blue is superior to the red. Right? Everybody sees it here. Now, you are the engineer. You understand these two technologies. So you run to your management and you say, management, we have the blue, but there is a competing technology. Our company is doing blue, but there is a red technology that's coming up. Okay, folks? What advice are you going to give your management? Are you going to continue with the blue or are you going to switch to the red? You're here. You're here. The blue right now is performing better, but there's a red. Folks, what do you advise your management? Typically, the management, the first question is they're going to ask you, what do you think? Don't just tell me there are two technologies. Tell me what you think. Have you not evaluated that? So what are you going to say? Folks, one at a time, you said red. Can you pass the microphone, please? Could you please say why you think red?
Because the slope of trade is increasing more. It is more than the rate of blue.
So he does some mathematical analysis. He says this kind of like flat. This one is rising. So he would expect the same rise to continue in the future. Right? Remember, we are projecting in the future. Right now, if you would say, hey, right now is very clear, right? Blue is a winner. But we're talking about what should we do for the future. Very good. Okay, someone else wanted to say something here. We come to you, sir. Do you have something?
Same sir, but
Okay, hold on. Get to the microphone first.
same thing that same. But I want to add something like what technology we have just received, like in India, 4G technology. Like all the people's, all the telecom industry just switches to their technology. When they said, forecast is that 4G technology will come in the market.
Okay.
So they do according to the 4G market to capture all the customers.
All right. Well, folks, first of all, the telecom is a very complex business, number one. Number two, telecom is also a highly regulated industry. So maybe the mobile operators have no choice. TRAI will tell them, hey, if there is 4G coming up, you better get ready, otherwise I'll cancel your license. All right? So who knows what's happening with TRAI and the licenses and so on. All right? Let's come back. There was somebody in the back. Can you please pass the microphone? Go ahead, sir.
I will do the homework and ask the team to be prepared and wait and watch, because we do not know which technology is going to emerge at this particular point.
We really don't know.
Yeah, so the point is assess the technology, do all the math that is involved, have a team which is ready, and let us wait and watch. And if things change in short time, then immediately we'll change.
Very good. Wait and watch. Wait and watch. Okay, great. All right. Somebody says just continue with blue.
I would like to add one point, like if we switch to the red technology, we must see that among all the years, it has taken certain amount of time for the blue to reach over that point. But the emerging red, it is literally taken a less amount of time to reach to that blue competition. So we must, the the management employee which asked, I will ask the team that what really did they do in such a little amount of time to catch up to us?
Understood. Understood. But you still have a decision to make. We are trying to get a handle on the situation, try to understand it better. But the fact of the matter is, you got to somehow do something. Or you could say, I do nothing, and that's fine too. All right? Now, no matter what you choose to do here, there is a risk because you are taking a bet on the future, and the future is uncertain. Regardless of how you reason, oh, we're going to be very educated people, we know exactly what's happening in the market, and so on and so forth. But one can never predict with 100% certainty as to what's going to happen in the market tomorrow. That's number one. Number two, understand this well. You're doing blue right now. So when you hired those teams of 50 engineers, what skill set did you look for? You look for the skill set for the blue. Maybe this red requires a different skill set. Right? So you've got to hire those people. All right, very good. Now, other things. The management. You go to your boss, and the boss says, you know, boss, I think the blue is going to die out. Now, the boss says, I'm retiring in 2 years. Does that boss really care what happens after 2 years? The answer is no. All right? So you got to, there is a human dimension to this technology. The boss says, I don't care what happens after 2 years. All right? Thirdly, the markets. How do the markets behave? Suppose you were to switch. Right? You were to switch. And now, because you have switched, right, from blue to red, your sales have dropped. It's going to take you some time, maybe, right, and so on, to ramp up your blue. Sorry, you ramp down your blue and ramp up your red. It's going to take some time. So sales go down. So when you report, by the way, how frequently do the companies report? You know, there's something called SEBI. That's the regulatory body for the stock market in India. How often do the companies, the private companies, have to report their corporate earnings? Every quarter. Every quarter. So every quarter they got to say, am I making money? Am I making more money, less money? Now let's say your sales drop by 10%. Now, you go to the market. Market says your sales have dropped. Does the market really care? You're switching technologies, this, that, and the other thing. There's a 10% drop. What happens to your share price? It drops even more. All right? So then you say, my God, I switched this technology. This was meant to be a technology that is kind of like a superior in some ways, but then now the market is actually very brutal. All right? So you got to be careful. It's not that easy, guys. And I can describe to you in very simple human terms. Whenever you want to change, you go to the first law, right, of Newton. It says you need a force. You need a force. So now there's two things. One, if you want to switch, you need a force. Number two, even if you don't switch, you're always projecting yourself in the future, and therefore you need to be very skilled in managing risk. That is associated. Okay? Now, so the thing is, many times this is the way it plays out. Many times this is the way it plays out. So I have some examples here, right? CDs versus online music. The MP3 players versus mobile phone. Lot. You have this, is there somebody here who had a plasma TV at home? You know these flat screen TVs? The first ones were the plasma. The plasma TVs, then it became LCD. Then it became LED. What is LCD? Very good, thank you. LED? And OLED? It's LED, right? That's the O word. O is? Organic. Very good. Alright, so you have all of these things. So technologies will come. And you are very good in plasma. You're selling plasma TVs like crazy. Somebody says, plasma may not exist in 2 years' time. Let's switch now. But then you're going to say, I'm thinking of leaving the company in 6 months. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care. Right? I'll be very careful. So, there's a lot of technologies here. One more I want to pick. So, you say, landline, We already talked about it, right? Landline versus mobile. These two were not enough. That's how VoIP came. Is there somebody here who uses VoIP like Skype and all that? Is the voice quality? We use Skype. Very good. Is the voice quality as good as landline? No. Why? Because the internet was never designed for voice calling. Internet was designed for file sharing. Folks, you have to understand the characteristic of communication systems in two ways. One is the data rate. The other one is the latency. You can have very high data rate, right, with a very high latency. So you're going to transfer a file. Let's say your file is 10 MB. You're going to transfer it. But let's say the transfer starts 1 second later. But you're going to transfer at 10 Mbps. So a 10 MB file will take 1 second to transfer. You started 1 second late. Total transfer is 2 seconds. Right? Everybody see that here. Still doable. So internet is designed for this kind of traffic. Now for voice, what happens? Does voice need 10 Mbps? No. Voice is typically, landlines are operating at 64 kbps. So it's a kbps system. But voice is extremely sensitive to delays, latencies. So when you do VoIP applications, you are running a delay-sensitive application on a data network. Okay? But never mind. There must be some use case. Why? That's why people are using VoIP. There must be some use case. The point is this. We had a certain measure of performance. So let's come to landline versus mobile. Let's go to that comparison again. We talked about it, I believe, yesterday or the day before. Right? Landline versus mobile. You say landline versus mobile. My performance is voice quality. My performance is voice quality. So landline has been around for a much longer time. Voice quality is better. The new technology is mobile, is coming up. The voice quality is not as good. Right? This is where you are. But now this is where you are. This one, you're able to project yourself and say, I believe landlines will go out of business. Right? What was the argument we made? Was it still voice quality? Or landline versus mobile? What was the argument that we gave? I think it was 2 days ago, right? We forgot. Come on, guys. Portability. Very good. So now you're going to reason that I can change my performance. I will not measure the performance in terms of voice quality. I throw that measure away. My new measure of performance is portability. As long as it is good enough in voice quality, as long as it's good enough in voice quality, I throw away voice quality as my measure of performance. My new measure of performance now is portability. In that dimension of portability, even though in the dimension of voice quality, red was inferior, in the dimension of portability, when I measure the performance in terms of portability, the red is better than blue. Everybody see that here? Folks, that's where the disruption comes in. You have an inferior product. A mobile phone is an inferior product when it comes to quality of voice. But it's a superior product in terms of portability. And remember, we said mobility is equal to, or portability is equal to freedom. Remember that equation, right? So therefore, in that dimension, if in one dimension it's an inferior product, but in another dimension it's a superior product. And you have to reason which dimension is more valuable to your customers. Is it the dimension of voice quality, or is it the dimension of portability? All right, everybody see that here. So that will give rise to what we are calling as disruptive technologies or disruptive innovation. Now, I want to go one step further, and I want to talk about reverse innovation within the same framework. Reverse innovation is, we tend to, I don't know, many times people say, oh, innovation is happening in the US, in UK, Germany, as if there's no innovation happening here. There's a lot of innovation that happens here also, right? Like somebody said, I don't want them to hold into that machine for the Is it MRI, sir? For MRI and stuff, can I do it in a different way? I have a sensor around my body and things like that, right? Now, so you take a very sort of an MRI, you understand the science of MRI, how you're trying to do the imaging, and now you use some simplified sensors to carry out the same imaging. Maybe it will not be 100% that quality, but it's good enough and it's portable. We also talked about, there was somebody here who talked about how they need dialysis for some relative at home, right? And so on. Okay, reverse innovation. So you will take whatever big thing is happening in the US or wherever else, and you will bring it here, and you will simplify it. But then reverse innovation says, what you have simplified, maybe now can be ported back to the US, and it creates a certain value there, right? Don't think that people anywhere are kind of like immune to the notion of value. They're immune to the notion of value for money, and so on. It's the same people. We all have the same considerations, all right? So that is reverse innovation. Original innovation tends to flow from west to east, and reverse innovation tends to flow from east to the west. Okay? There's a lot of this. So folks, whenever you come across innovations, you have to be, on one hand, of course, you see the value that innovation creates. On the other hand, that's not the end of innovation. There is a lot more that's going to happen from where we are right now. A lot of stuff is going to happen. Okay? All right. The rest of it, I guess, is pretty straightforward. How do you release the products in the marketplace? So sometimes you release them all in one go. Sometimes you release them maybe with a slight gap. Are we familiar with certain other terms? Are we familiar with terms like obsolescence? Something becomes obsolete. What is obsolete?
Fade away. Something fade away.
Fade away. There is some characteristic of obsolete. Something is obsolete. So, this mobile phone, I don't know if you guys even recognize this. This mobile phone, is this obsolete?
Don't get. Not yet. Don't get obsolete.
What is the characteristic? So the word obsolete is not equal to not working. It works, but it's obsolete.
So I can say your product. Pager.
Go ahead, pager.
Very good.
It's obsolete, but technically maybe the pager could still work.
Yes.
Could still work. Very good, very good. Pagers, obsolete. The darn thing still functions, but it has run out of its utility, so people don't use it anymore. The product works itself, but it's obsolete. All right, so that's one phrase. Obsolete. Something is obsolete. You don't want to be seen to be using it. Whatever. It's obsolete. The other word is cannibalism. You aren't familiar with the word cannibalism. What does that mean?
Eating fellow humans. Eating fellow human beings.
Humans eating fellow human beings. All right. Now, in a business sense, it means your company's one product leading to sort of competing with your own product. So you have two products, A and B. If your product A competes with B, that's called cannibalism. All right. So you tend not to engage. You tend to develop products such that there is no cannibalism. So you will not release iPhone 11 till iPhone 10 has had a reasonable run in the marketplace. You will not release 11. There has been a lot of talk. I'm not sure if it's already done. There has been a lot of talk of a cheaper version of iPhone. Has that happened? Have you guys heard of this? A cheaper version. Oh, Apple should do a cheaper version. Why are they keep doing it? Why do they keep doing expensive, expensive, expensive? Why don't they do a cheaper phone? Why there is a market segment for a cheaper iPhone? But then, why don't they do it? Right? They have a $1,000 phone. By the way, is there somebody here who has iPhone 10? I want to know the Indian price of it. In Singapore, it sells for about 50,000 rupees. That's a lot of money, guys. How much? 1.5 lakhs here.
But the 250 GB costs more than 1 lakh.
Whoa. Maybe that's a business issue. Okay. But you see, the point is, it's a very expensive phone, right? I mean, 1 lakh, that's a lot of money, guys. For a phone. Actually, it's a lot of money for anything. Okay? So the point is, if you were to introduce a phone, so let's say you're selling this iPhone 10 for 1 lakh rupees, you introduce a cheaper version, right? And now you sell it for, say, I don't know, 45,000 rupees. It may be that certain people who were going to pay 1 lakh for this iPhone 10 will now go for the cheaper version. So your cheaper version ends up cannibalizing the more expensive version. All right? So you got to be familiar with those kinds of strategies also. But this is a technology roadmap, guys. For everything you do, you have the time on the x-axis. For everything you do, you have multiple technologies. Multiple technologies. All right? And all of these technologies will tell you in every little aspect of the product, not the entire thing, in every little aspect of the product, that there will be certain evolution. Because technologies are evolving. The technology of how humans interact. We saw this in the video by Steve Jobs. He said, I'm not going to interact with my phone using these keys. Right? He said, those keys are totally useless. I have one giant screen. So it's a new way. So you will always have newer and newer technologies. All right? Newer and newer technologies. And to have them sort of ready to adopt those technologies over a period of time. You have no choice. All right? Otherwise, your competition will run over you. You have these new technologies, you have new choices, you have new innovations, you have new intellectual property, and so on and so forth. All right? Okay, folks, there is maybe just one more slide, and I want to then bring the lecture for now to close, which is the timing part. Okay? The product that you want to bring about, all right? You want to bring out a new product in the market, it has to be ready. The technology has to be ready. And not just technology that goes into the product. You also have to think about repairs, returns, all kinds of things that are associated with making a sale in the marketplace. All right? So it has to be ready technology-wise, but the market also has to be ready for that product. There's a lot of stuff. So you say, I have a petrol car, but don't you need a petrol pump? Right? If there's no petrol pump, how the heck are you going to run your petrol car? So you need a lot of infrastructure, no matter what product you talk about. Same thing with your e-cars. E-cars will require a charging station. Whether you charge it at home, you charge it at your office, or there's a charging station. It's like a petrol station that actually charges, not with petrol, but now with electricity. All right, so there's a lot of these kind of things that you need. You want to run a Netflix. If you want to run a Netflix, you better have broadband internet access on a massive scale. Not like, oh, I go to my office and I have broadband internet. It's not enough. Wherever you are, you need to have access to broadband internet. That's just the way it is. All right, that also gives rise to tremendous opportunities. Folks, go back and pick up Netflix. Netflix did not start off as a company that was doing these movies and shows online. They were actually not doing these shows online. They were actually doing CD rentals. It was online. You don't have to go to the store to pick up the CD. All right, you go online, you book the CD, they put it in the mail, you watch it, you return it back. By mail. Everything was by mail. All right, and then that mail thing disappears. So you still sense. And when the mail thing disappeared, when they decided to that was hugely profitable. But they decided to discontinue that hugely profitable business. And they said, from now onwards, we will only have online. Okay? So they did this A versus B. They did this A versus B. Their glue was CD business by mail. All right? And it was generating lots of money. So at that time, now today it sounds like no-brainer. Hey, everything is on the net. But it takes a certain amount of time for everything to come to the net. It's not a coincidence. All right? So they switched. They killed their glue business. They said we're going to go along with red. And if you go back and look at the stock price, that day when the decision came, their stock price fell very significantly because the market was very unhappy with their decision to discontinue this mail order CD business because it was making money. But what makes money for you today will not make money for you tomorrow. So market is in a constant state of innovation and evolution. All right. I think it's 4:30. Let me bring this conversation to a close. Thank you all for coming. Tomorrow we're going to talk from 10 to 11, and then we're going to enjoy a nice trip to Assam Tea Garden. All right. Thank you all for coming. But still, even as the cameras stop rolling, we can take Q&A and any interactions that you guys like to have. No issues. Any questions, comments, anything? No questions, no comments. Folks, I'm going to stick around, but the formal part of the session has come to a close. Yeah? Nobody wants to go. Nobody really wants to go. No, that's it. The session is ended.